Okay, so ever wonder about like the whole story behind smartphones? I mean, we carry them around every day, but how to go from those clunky old things to like these mini computers? Get ready for some serious aha moments as we trace the evolution of the smartphone. We'll cover it all. From those early PDAs, remember Palm Pilots, to the rise of BlackBerry with an iconic keyboard, and of course, the Battle of the Titans. Android versus Apple. And to help us connect the dots, we've got our expert here who knows this stuff inside and out. So let's rewind a bit. Way back, if you wanted to be productive on the go, you had these things called PDAs.
Yeah, and those early PDAs, they were pretty limited. Good for taking notes, maybe checking a simple calendar, but not much else.
Right, like, can you imagine only using your phone for, like, notes and calendars today? Back then, if you wanted to check email or browse the web, you were stuck at your computer. That's why when BlackBerry came along, it was huge. Suddenly you could send emails and messages from anywhere.
And that physical keyboard, man, that was a game changer.
Totally. Everyone wanted that clickety-clack action.
People were used to typing on a computer, so that tactile feedback from the keyboard just felt right. Plus, BlackBerry was all about security, which was a big deal for professionals. Sending, like, important work emails from your phone.
Yeah.
That wasn't really a thing before BlackBerry.
It was the status symbol. You had a BlackBerry, you were a boss. And, you know, in a world of touchscreens, I kind of miss that feeling of typing on a physical keyboard. But even with everyone loving their BlackBerries, you could tell something else was coming. Something even bigger.
Oh, yeah. People wanted to touch their screens, interact directly.
Right. Not just those tiny keyboards.
Exactly. And the tech was already kind of there, but it was like the Wild West. Then capacitive touchscreens came along, the kind that react to, like, the electricity in your finger.
That changed everything. Suddenly, it was like you could reach right into your phone.
It is a whole new world.
Yeah.
And that's when the smartphone landscape really exploded.
Because this is where we get those two big players, right?
Yeah, two totally different approaches.
Android and iPhone. In 2007, we got the first iPhone, and then in '08, the first Android phone. Game changers, both of them.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right, because it wasn't just about the hardware. It was like a philosophy difference.
Totally.
Android, with Google behind it, was all about open source. You could tinker, customize, do whatever you wanted.
Which developers loved, right? Like a giant playground.
Exactly. And manufacturers could put Android on anything. Smart refrigerators, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you had Apple, laser focused on that smooth, controlled experience.
Yeah, that it just works magic.
Exactly. From the hardware design to the software, it was about simplicity.
Yeah.
And it worked. People loved it.
Still do. But those differences run deep, even in how apps are made for each platform.
Oh, yeah, totally different worlds. Android apps, a lot of them are made with Java or Kotlin, and they get compiled into bytecode.
Bytecode.
It's like a universal language that all Android devices can understand. They have this thing, a virtual machine, that translates that bytecode into instructions for the actual hardware.
So it's like a translator for apps, making sure they work on any Android device.
Exactly. But iOS is all about efficiency. They use Objective-C or Swift, and they compile straight to machine code.
The language the iPhone processor speaks natively.
Right, like talking directly to the hardware. No middleman. And that can mean faster performance, a snappier feel.
Two paths to the same goal, but man, totally different approaches. Fascinating stuff. But it wasn't just this battle between the big two, right? Some developers thought, why not make things a bit easier?
Right. Why not build for both platforms with the same code?
Exactly. So we started seeing these cross-platform frameworks pop up, like Flutter and React Native. Game changers in their own right.
For sure. Write the code once and boom, you've got an app that works on both Android and iOS. Huge time saver.
Talk about efficiency. So tell me about Flutter. I know Google's behind that one, right?
Yeah. Google developed Flutter, and it uses a language called Dart. It's really cool because you can create these apps that look and feel like they were built specifically for Android or iOS.
So no more like those generic looking apps that could be on any platform.
Exactly. You get that polished native look and feel, but with one code base.
That's got to be a dream for developers.
Huge. It's like the holy grail of app development in a lot of ways.
What about React Native? Isn't that the one Facebook came up with?
Yep. React Native uses JavaScript, which is super popular for web development.
So a lot of web developers were probably psyched about that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, now you can use your existing skills to build mobile apps too.
Smart move. Facebook.
Totally. And the big thing with both Flutter and React Native is that they save developers a ton of time and money. Don't need separate teams for different platforms.
Which is huge. especially for smaller companies.
Absolutely. It levels the playing field a bit.
But we can't forget about the hardware. I mean, all this amazing software wouldn't be possible without the incredible evolution of, well, everything.
Right. Think back to those first smartphones. Tiny screens, grainy cameras. We've come a long way.
No kidding. I mean, we're carrying around these incredible high-resolution displays, cameras that rival professional gear.
And don't forget the processors, memory, battery life.
Right. It's mind-blowing how much power we have in our pockets.
All thanks to these advancements in hardware.
Yeah.
And it directly translates into what we can do with our phones, right?
Yeah.
We're editing 4K videos, playing these crazy realistic games.
Things we couldn't have even imagined 20 years ago.
It's insane.
And it feels like things are only going to get wilder from here, you know? What with AI, AR.
Edge computing.
Right. All this stuff sounds like it's straight out of science fiction.
I know. But it's all happening right now. AI is already in our phones, making them smarter, learning our habits.
Personalizing our experiences, for better or worse.
Right. And AR is changing how we interact with the world around us. Imagine pointing your phone at something and getting instant information, or navigating with, like, virtual arrows overlaid on the real world.
So cool.
And then there's edge computing, which is taking some of that processing power away from the cloud and bringing it right to your phone.
Meaning our phones will be even faster, even more capable. It's mind-blowing. Well, we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive. We've talked about those early PDAs, the rise and fall of BlackBerry, the whole Android versus Apple story.
And all the software and hardware that make it all tick.
It's a pretty amazing story when you think about it. From clunky bricks to these sleek, powerful computers we carry with us everywhere.
In just a couple of decades.
Exactly. So next time you're scrolling through your phone, take a second to appreciate the tech that makes it all possible. It really is incredible. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the fascinating world of smartphones.